Um, I certainly don't. It wasn't just you who reacted to me and my big mouth and my songs, and I don't know, the specter of a lot of young women discovering their own power, maybe together. So that's a shift in society. It's and yeah, I think female power can be intimidating, and yeah, we used to, but yeah, so maybe it is a more a more circuitous or brave journey for a masculine human being to find their way to my music, or at least back in the day when yeah, the mosh pit was all female, but many have, and thank goddess, because I don't like anybody want to preach to the choir. I want to talk to my fellow humans, and not be put in some camp and be told that my music is only for certain kinds of people. Nobody really wants that.
Well, there was like a in the early 90s where lady singer-songwriters could break through to the pop masses, right? Obviously, people are still listening to Jagged Little Pill, and Tracy Chapman, I feel like, is being reappreciated. Sarah McLachlan, the Lilith Fair scene is sort of being remembered as this, pretty revolutionary moment in American music, where women were at the top of the bill, not like shoehorned in sides. And there's still a lot of problems, I think, in festival booking across the board, where women are sort of tokenized as lead musicians, lead writers in this sphere. And your record label that you started on your own, I think has always championed you and artists, female artists, but not just female artists, Andrew Bird, other folks like that. You've championed people that maybe didn't have a place in the pop sphere, but that so many people gravitated to once they were able to hear it.
Yeah. Yeah, I have long prided myself on bringing some very cool music to people. Whether it's my opening acts live, a lot of the people that have ended up on Righteous Babe over the years are like my openers, that I pick because I'm into what they do. It is I who goes and finds people to share the stage with, and they're people whose music I love, and then they're usually left of center type of artists, and then sometimes they end up on Righteous Babe. But as we are, getting more sophisticated in this society with, movements towards equality on every level, we are discerning that there is a difference between a woman fronting an all-male band, with all male producers released on an all male record company to an all male industry,
Exactly.
And women filling all those roles and actually controlling the means of production or the way it's delivered to an audience, all the stuff that surrounds somebody's song, So, with Righteous Babe, I guess I was, I'm known for a few things, I guess. But yeah, just actually saying, well, it doesn't feel right to me because I was always very political and very feminist, like it doesn't feel right to me to just get in bed with the old boys with their old toys, and, and for what my art is and what my purpose on the planet is, to go that traditional route seemed like a cop-out for me. So I just tried to find my own alternative, and it was a long, fascinating process. Still is, really. Still at it.
And you grew up in Buffalo, right? That's where your label's based.
Yep.
We played your space my band Dust Bowl Revival played Babetown.
Oh, Babeville. Cool.
Babeville.
Awesome. Oh, great.
Babeville is in Babetown. You know, it's in the suburb of Babetown.
Yeah, right. Babetown, which is going to be the new name for Buffalo, if I can, by the time I'm done.
But let's dive into this new record real quick. This is what, your 25th?
22nd, yeah.
22nd? That's a lot of records.
That's a lot of records.
But there's an urgency to a lot of these songs. Especially Do or Die, which is my favorite track.
Oh, cool.
About just coming out and saying what's really happening. But in this poetic, almost playfully interrogative way. Because I think you have this beautiful of bringing people into this idea that something is very wrong, but there's something that we can do about it, but we can still be encouraged by all the effort and all the movement that is happening without losing hope.
Yeah.
And that if your vote doesn't matter, you're saying if you think your vote doesn't matter, you're not paying attention. And we have to keep trying like it's do or die. But you repeat it twice, like in this almost mantra. Like it comes back around, and it feels like a Marvin Gaye song, but now.
Oh, love it. Well, I'm flattered. Yeah, I mean, if you think your vote doesn't matter, you're not paying attention. I mean, look at what they're continuing to do. These people who desperately want to stop democracy in its tracks, and have minority rule. They're trying to make it as hard as possible for people to vote. And for many decades, the gerrymandering, the corporate money in politics, the getting rid of the Voting Rights Act, all of these things it's all about the power of our vote and keeping us from it. And and so when I hear disillusioned people saying that they don't vote because it's meaningless and their voice, it doesn't matter, and I think, oh, they've won, they've got your mind. They have, I guess maybe in a similar way to the way I came out talking to other women in my songs, like do not stand between yourself and your own power. Like, don't be convinced that you're helpless. You are not. But yeah, I think these days when I write songs, I'm especially focused on trying to not intimidate so much. Like I think when I was young and I first started expressing my outrage about the what is, it could feel a little shrill to people who weren't exactly in the same seat of that outrage, going, yes, thank you for screaming what I've wanted to scream for so long, But that is hard for somebody a little bit to the left or right, or, in a different position to hear, to let in, to follow. So yeah, these days, I feel like I'm a heck of a lot older and slightly calmer,
Yeah.
I mean, I've elbowed out space for myself in this world for 30 years through my music. So now I have a space to be. So that is calming. I feel like I do have power and, personal, whatever, to be myself. I have room to be myself. So now I can focus on trying to communicate these same kinds of things, maybe turning over rocks in society, but doing so, gently, trying to draw people in even from a great distance, and not scare them away.
Well, you released a memoir in 2019 called No Walls and the Recurring Dream. And some of the articles I was reading about it highlight your own doubt about trying to convert people, right? That maybe it's not your job anymore to try to convince people constantly, and that it's about maybe empathizing and trying to reach across the aisle musically in a way. But then again, not forgetting the things that have happened and not forgiving totally. It's sort of this middle ground that we need to find in our society that is so at each other's throats right now. Because
yes.
you have every right to shrilly shout at the other side. But I think we're realizing more and more as this time expands beyond the Trump era that this is going to go on for another generation or more. And we have to live with them. We have to talk to them and try to understand why they got here. I'm in Florida right now. And there's Confederate flags flying on the canals with people riding their boats. They're not trying to like hostile to me and my beliefs. But it's hard for me to want to dialogue with people who believe that is still an acceptable flag to fly. When people are so hurt by that symbol.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you try to reconcile the fact that the other side doesn't want to understand you or empathize with you, maybe?
I mean, I think I've always had a pretty clear sense in my work and my art for a long time that what I'm doing is just giving voice to a perspective that has been, muffled, if not silenced, in our culture, right? So traditionally within patriarchy, just singing, for instance, it's just one aspect of my writing, but singing from a female perspective, thoughtfully so, knowingly so, intentionally. But that what I was doing was not convincing anyone who doesn't see women as fully formed human beings of anything necessarily, but just simply giving voice to my being, my experience, my perspective, and in that way supporting all those like me who also feel silenced, who also feel marginalized, unseen, disrespected, disempowered. So, I think that, when we, try to add our voice to, become a part of this solution, this, burgeoning equality, I think it is good to maybe, or at least it's been helpful to me to think of, I'm not trying to change anybody's mind or convince them that they're wrong and I'm right. Yeah. I'm trying to support as many people as I can. I'm trying to support people who need support, right, so whether it's women or poor people or people of color or queer people or whoever factors into my writing, support them and their humanity and their right to become themselves too. And the stronger we can make ourselves, the more free and empowered we can become, the solution writes itself. And I do think that, people who don't want to accept or support the full humanity and equal rights of women or people of color or queer people or blah, blah, blah. I think that is really, I think we get confused that it is actually a conflict of ideology when really it's just about tribes. It's about tribalism, It's about, you can't tell somebody their idea is wrong if changing their idea means leaving their family, community, friends, and life up till now, and going into an abyss of strangers and nothingness. Like, how that's what you ask of somebody when you say, change your mind because your idea is wrong and mine is right. So I think we have to come at it with an awareness that we're monkeys who cannot be alone. To be alone, to be ostracized from the tribe is death. That's equivalent to death in our, our physiologies, our minds, our spirits. So what I think the mission is to make ourselves, whoever we are, whoever needs help, to make ourselves strong and whole, and to just love and welcome the opponent, because if you can show them that they have a home here on this side of whatever that line in the sand is, then they are free to change their mind. But until you show them there is another place to go where they can make a home and have a community and be held, there's no way you can change their mind.
Have you considered running for office?
Yeah, woo! That sounds awful.
Mayor of New Orleans.
Like playing guitar.
You could get elected down there.
Gee whiz, Louisiana, you think so? I don't know.
Maybe just New Orleans. It's like its own universe.
Yes, it is. It is.
I know you probably don't listen to all of your old songs since there's 22 albums and counting. But
no way.
A song like Angry Anymore feels like it should be dropped into the conversation in this society right now. I sent it to my wife earlier because I almost got chills listening to it about having empathy for people like our own parents who are coming at life from a totally different perspective. Their prejudices, their fears, their anger, it's injected in our bones, in our blood. And we have to learn how to forgive them and forgive ourselves, that part of ourselves.
Yeah.
And that line that you grew up with your mom against the whole world, and that she taught you how to wage cold war with quiet, but you want to live your life unarmed, but you have to be fist the world to survive.
Yeah, right. Or do you? I mean, I think it's families are great incubators of, this is where we practice, right? We begin with our family, practicing revolutionary love, because yes, like you say, our opponents can come in the forms of our parents, our spouses, our our immediate loved ones. So this is where we get to practice how you engage with an opponent, and coming back to that unconditional love is where you have to start, and this sort of thing I'm trying to explore more deeply, I think with every day that I spend on this planet, and certainly on this new record called Revolutionary Love, it's how can you remain in a place of unconditional love without being without being a victim, without being a pushover, without being just accepting the ills that people perpetrate upon each other. It's tricky business for sure. The first thing that I would say about revolutionary love is that it's done in community, right? It's inherently not a thing that an individual does, because revolutionary love takes all of us together, to really make it happen. And I think within a community, every person plays a different role, right? So if you are a person who is presently has a boot on their neck, it is not your job in this moment to reach out the hand, to turn the other cheek, to be the, to try to, it's your job in this moment to survive, to take care of yourself, to defend yourself, so each of us, we have a role to play in the enacting of revolutionary love, and that changes based on our circumstance and our, selves and our lives. So I feel like, again, after 30 years of getting the boot off my neck, I am now ready to do the next phase, to focus on the next phase of drawing in, of reaching out, of trying to engage my opponents with unconditional love, and remain open to them, even in their what feels to me outrageous behavior or words, to remain open and curious and engaging of them, because I am now strong enough. I am now free enough. I'm now ready,
Was there a point in your career as an artist, as a female creator, where you felt like you had the tools to be okay in your body and in yourself? Like was that something that happened very early on, this sort of self-conscious awareness that you are not going to please everyone, you have to just be yourself? Because you started so young. I mean, your first record was when you were what 19?
18, 19, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think I was raised to be a pleaser. I like to please people. It sounds funny maybe to somebody who just shared that they felt intimidated, by my music and my voice for a lot of years. I hate to make people uncomfortable. I'm like one of those, types that's always.
But I was afraid of the Ani DiFranco meme.
Yeah,
right? I was afraid of what people portrayed you as.
Yeah,
I had never actually listened. Yeah. That's what was so stupid, right? I mean, even stuff on that first record, Two Hands. That's something that I would be playing on loop if I was 14 when that came out. But I never gave it a chance.
Yeah.
And now as a 36-year-old, somehow it feels so important. And I wish I could tell that 14-year-old, don't listen to the guys on the basketball team who are like, oh God, those girls with the righteous babe pins are the weirdos. We're not going to hang out with them.
Yo, right. Yeah, the guys on the basketball team and the media that, the culture, the patriarchal culture that informed the way they think and what boxes they put stuff in. Yeah, it's all, I mean, we're all victims of it. We all learn this stuff, we all got to unlearn it together, so, but yeah, I was so excruciatingly aware every step along the way of that process of you come with a different perspective and, the racist, capitalist, patriarchal culture, homophobic culture will find a way to denigrate and disempower you and your voice. They'll portray it, and they did time after time, article after article, interview after interview. And it was all unfolding in front of my eyes.
Did it hurt your feelings?
What's that?
Did it hurt your feelings? Or were you just fuck you?
I mean, it did piss me off. It did piss me off. It took me a lot of years, because my life in interviews, my life with the press, was one of, older white dudes, usually, basically the line of questioning, was like looking at me sideways, and the questions were, what's your problem? where do you get off, and what, why do you exist? Just like, just questions asked from such a distance, such a just like, I have no idea why this even exists. I don't like it, and I don't. And then as I, sort of persisted in connecting with an audience despite the sort of marginalization and the stereotyping and the pushing down and away of the media, then the questions of, so what is it about you, do you think, that why you still have a job? It's like, never once did it feel like I could talk to somebody who felt my music, or what it might be about it that was connecting, or what, it was always a matter of trying to justify myself to somebody who's not really there for that, So yeah, like, interviewing used to just piss me off. And I'm afraid I didn't come in every interview with the spirit of revolutionary love. Of course, I will be a teacher now, and I will show you, old white dude.
A teenager.
Yeah, I was a teenager, and yes, I felt like, fuck you and you and you and you. But
that song, it's again something that you don't get to control what people listen to, right? The most popular trending tracks on Spotify, out of your control. So a song like Both Hands, I think I called it Two Hands earlier for whatever reason. It's 30 years old. And yet that's the first thing that people who don't know you that well are going to listen to. It's the number one thing on there. But then again, it's kind of an amazing snapshot of your whole career. Right? Seeing the very beginning and this wiser, calmer, more teaching voice, and this urgency in that song. That percussive guitar, the percussive guitar part that is just like stopping and starting. No. How hard we're trying so fucking hard to record the history of this moment on the bedroom wall, on your body, and I'm glad that those songs are still being heard.
Yeah, well, when, for better or worse, often it feels like worse, when us artists tap into something that is, it's not ours, it comes through, right? And you tap into it, and you give it, you give it sound. Those things are not of time, so I fear that, yes, songs I wrote 30 years ago could have been written tomorrow. Woody Guthrie songs that were written 50, 60 years ago could have been written tomorrow. There are songs even older than that still pertain to human experience, to the human struggle. So, yeah, unfortunately, when you're really in the flow and you're making art from somewhere, if it's coming from somewhere, then it doesn't get old. Although it's like, when I play a song I wrote about gun violence that's 20 years old,
Right.
When it's tomorrow's massacre and it's time to pull that song out again, it's just like, it can be exhausting. Exactly. Or, you pull out a Woody Guthrie song that could have been written about tomorrow's headline, it's like, it can be depressing. But I do believe that we are evolving, and that this incredibly regressive political atmosphere is, a panicked, very frightened pushback against, I think, something that is cracking open, the real America, the real American dream just on the horizon.
Well, that song Shrinking Violet off of the new record, I think captures the fraught feeling of being a woman in this society where even though people are starting to understand the depth of the misbehaviors that are happening all around the female body, there's this acknowledgement that there's nothing you can say to convince certain people. If the person is going to stand over you with a knife and try to own your body, it's going to keep happening. And yet you can't not write about it and speak out. So you have to kind of wrestle with the fact that this innate male violence is like the sun rising every day. It's something that will always be there.
Mm-hmm.
And that somehow you have to not be a shrinking violet, you have to stick up for yourself, but also not make that your whole identity as the person who's going to be victimized.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been, that song in particular has been one of those amazing touch points for me and other people. Just since it came out on the record, you know, just hearing, you know, like I'll have a whole long conversation with a woman interview or something, and then at the end there'll be this very quiet, like, thank you for that song, you know, or something like,
or did that happen to you or something?
Yeah, just making me more aware, as my whole life in music and songwriting has done, that I'm not alone, that and that the people, you know, oh, there's a perfectly empowered, happy, you know, strong woman doing her thing, and then, oh, guess what? Behind the curtain, there's a very afraid person who is just surviving something and lives in fear and is not free, and they're everywhere, all around you. And yes, many of them come in female bodies, but and I do think you're right. There is an inherent you know, violence in our species, and so that is a fact. But I think that, you know, again, while you can't sort of convince the violence out of our human species, you know, or tell it it's wrong and make it go away, you can show it that a woman is the same as themselves. You know, you can show a man who has aggressive stuff in his nature, for instance, that the woman in front of him is himself, is the same, is a human, not an object. Like, you can teach people to see each other. You know, you can't teach the violence out of them all the way, because again, it's a part of our nature, but you can help to mitigate that violence by teaching them that they are not alone, that there is another human being who feels everything they feel in front of them. So and has a life that's deep and vast and worthy of respect, you know. So yeah, it's again, yeah, just trying to give voice to the existence of myself, I think, is and thereby others, because none of us is alone or unique, you know. We all are many. So I think that's all it's about. And you do see, you know, this Me Too movement that you noted, you know, I think that's an incredibly hopeful sign that there's this critical mass now of men who see women, so that the stories of women, which have always been there, which have always been trying to be told, women have been, you know, shouting from the rooftops forever, but often completely taken down when they tried, you know. So now the fact that a woman can tell her story and have it be heard and have it be considered is an incredibly hopeful sign. It means that we're becoming visible, we're becoming human. So too, queer people, people of color, whatever it is that makes you slightly off center of this dominant culture. People are becoming visible and audible and real to the dominant culture, so that's beautiful and transformative. And I think we are just getting started with that.
Well, my dad was talking about the footage that I think he saw on YouTube of suffragettes, the women who were protesting for the vote in the early part of the 20th century, that they were beaten down on the steps of the Capitol by the police. And their persistence and their annoyingness, in a way, to all the male authority basically forced the powers that be to be like, you know what? Fine. Like we don't almost want to deal with this anymore. The constant barrage of marches and protests, and they're not working in the home, and they're not taking care of the kids. We need them just go away. Give them the vote.
Yeah. They famously, it was not even just the marches. They were out there every day. Every day for years. They literally were on the steps of that Capitol every day. Yes, exactly what you said. Like, I am going to be a bee in your bonnet until I can vote.
Well, what we saw with the marches last summer after the George Floyd killing upset a lot of people on the right. People who were like, well, they're vandalizing shops, and they're not working. They're just destroying things. But it made them realize how angry and upset and frustrated not just black folks, brown folks, but like so many people have been for so long with the prejudices that have been ingrained in our society, that it forced people to be like, okay, fine, like we should take this more seriously. Like that annoyingness, that persistence, I think is important.
Oh, yeah.
It's those people in Portland showing up every night.
Every day. Every city. Every day last summer. What a brilliant, gorgeous, amazing show of strength. And look at look at what's happening now because of that, exactly what you said. Like all of these voter suppression laws, all of these laws that they're passing all over the place, Georgia right next door, to try to keep people from being able to vote if you're black or you're poor or you're this or you're that or you're anything other than an elite. Corporations, businesses, baseball teams coming out saying you can't do this. You can't stop people from voting because you know what? It's becoming bad for our business. Like mayhem on the streets every single day, broken window, this and that. It's preventing all of us from making money. So stop it.
Well, in a weird way, it's like cool. Right?
That is what it takes.
It's like well, it's cool to go out and protest. We don't want to take away our customer. It's like we got to give them kind of what they want, which is such a weird corporate thing.
It is. But it's sad that it takes the dollar, to stop these ill-intentioned legislators and quote leaders, but it does. But that level of agitation by the people, businessmen are like, this is bad for business. This level of instability creates a kink in our money-making game, and it's gone too far. So you can't oppress people this much because it's preventing us from doing business, and that is really the end game that's gonna stop these types of voter suppression laws. It's the baseball teams pulling out and the corporations saying, I'm going to move my new plant not to your state now if you keep doing this, because it's going to be mayhem. Look, the people have proven it, so it's a circuitous route but very powerful.
Well, people who I think maybe view your music as being too harsh or too openly political, I would urge them to listen to a song like Simultaneously, right? Where you were questioning your own motives, right? Your own exhaustion about being outraged, about constantly giving all the fucks. Can't you just wake me when it's all done? Because I think a lot of us feel that, but don't really want to say it. We'll just be like, well, oh my God, another white police officer killed another black guy in Minnesota yesterday, right? How many things can I be outraged about? And I kind of wish I could wake up when things have been figured out. And that conversation also needs to be had, which you had in that song.
Yeah. I mean, it is completely exhausting for all of us who give any amount of fucks. And, just waking up every day knowing that the earth is going to boil over, that this garbage that I'm creating, that all this stuff packaged in plastic is insane, that there is an island the size of frickin' Europe of plastic in that the microplastics are in my bloodstream right now and yours because it's inescapable. I mean, it's too overwhelming. It's completely too overwhelming to stay present to everything that is going wrong on the scale that it is going wrong all around us right now, So I think that's part of the tactic, certainly that we saw amped up with the former administration. It's just, you make it so overwhelming that people can't deal. You just want to resign yourself. You start feeling helpless, So that's definitely in the air all around us and in us for good reason. Yeah. So I don't know. I spoke to it in that song, though it did give me pause, like you say, to even express it, because
if Ani DiFranco doesn't believe in it, if she's tired, how are we not all giving up?
Yeah.
She's the one who's going to really say what we mean.
Yeah. I mean, but it's just a really strong feeling that I couldn't not let out of my mouth, just like, Jesus, when is it going to stop? I can't take it.
Let's go back real quick. So you started playing music around what, 10 years old?
Yeah.
And you start playing more for real as a teenager, and you were on your own by about 15.
Yeah.
And you toured pretty much alone for the next couple decades.
Yeah, I mean, I had I toured in a duo, me and a drummer, for a lot of years. What's that?
Very punk rock.
Yeah, very punk rock. Before the White Stripes, there was me and Andy, and it was totally punk rock. And then, I had whatever, but a lot of solo before and after then, and, different sort of lineups that I've played with along the way. And, but I have been out there, pretty consistently this whole time.
Was it lonely in those early days when you were just trying to figure things out on the road?
Yes, it was very lonely, very lonely. All the solo touring, even the duo years, Andy. Yeah, it was less lonely with Andy, but it was still my thing and my problem and my job to figure out where we were going and my job to get paid and my job to sell the tapes or talk to the people, or it was a lot for a lot of years. And I did actually, I think in the late 90s, I was close to burnout, sort of trying to do it all myself. But then, I just about that time, I started to be able to afford, first a sound guy, which was huge for me. And then other, support people. So that made it more sustainable. But it was a long, long road.
How many people do you think discovered you accidentally as the opening credits song in my best friend's wedding?
I don't know. 68? I don't know. 73?
Like, what was the most surprising way that people started actually coming to your shows and finding out about you on a much bigger scale?
Well, you know, the cool thing about me, I think, if I should say so myself, is that there's actually all kinds of people who come to my shows. Like, from kids, you know, to old people. And sometimes in one family, which I love, there'll be like 3 generations, you know, and it's not just grandma, mother, daughter, or so. It's grandpa, it's dudes, and, you know, it's lots of a big age spectrum at my shows, which is kind of unique. And what you get to sort of sense, if you're me and you've been at every one of my frickin' shows, is that everybody finds their own way. And there's lots of really interesting ways that people take to show up to one of my shows, you know? Maybe it's a guitar player, you know, who's like, dude, I heard that thing and I was just like, what the hell is she doing? And I play acoustic guitar and holy shit, I love this, you know? Or whatever it is, you know, there's different, like with any art, there's different ways that it connects with different people. And so, you know, I find that, you know, there was the sort of stereotypical way that you talked about, that the media said, this is what this art is and how it should connect with this person here, but not any of the rest of you. So there's those people who came for that line in that song, and then that line in that song, you know, anything that sort of smacked of female empowerment. But there's a lot of other stuff going on in my work. Maybe you just are into songs and songwriting, or maybe you're into, you know, or
right.
So there's a lot of different people that sort of respond to different things and come via their own hearts and spleens. You know, I used to have this really interesting, when my audience was completely under the cloak of the media, like we've been talking about. That was only the case in America.
Yeah.
So even in like 1994, you know, I could go to Europe and play for a very diverse audience, and they would respond to all sorts of things, not just that line in that song and that line in that song. You know, so it was so vivid for me, the effect that the media, that the story people tell about you has a great effect on you, the artist.
Do you remember a particular show where you realized that this was going to be your life? That this was going to really impact people on a much bigger scale?
I mean, I don't know if I ever thought about that. Like, I decided in a moment, this is it for me. I think I just I've always approached every moment like, this is it. This is this moment. This is what I want to, I'm giving my all to this moment. And I never, like, I was asked a lot along the way about my 5-year vision, my 10-year vision, or what's my plan, or what is my, and I'm like, I have no idea. I'm here. My plan is to be as honest and as present right now as I can, you know, and so the rest of it all sort of playing out, I didn't really spend too much time trying to plan that or worry about it.
I think you are, whether or not you think of yourself as this or not, like an extension of what Pete Seeger's vision is. Telling stories, making society a little bit better each show, and bringing people together. And you said that, you know, when you worked with him, when you saw him, you saw this unassuming power that came from a calm sense of purpose and a palpable lack of fear.
Punch. Stop.
The dog agrees.
Yeah. Pete's definitely a shining example for me. in, like I said, yeah. And, I always have often joked that I want to be him when I grow up, but I think you're right in that, if of anybody out there, I've been carrying that mantle, in a somewhat younger generation, the mantle of the folk singer, of the political rabble rouser artist, of the community focused singer songwriter. So it's funny, just in the going back to sort of patriarchal culture and its blind spots, that has come into our conversation. It's always funny to me to see. You used to see it a lot, I guess. Maybe it's waning because times are a-changing. But the new Dylan, who's the new Dylan? Who's the new Dylan? I don't think anybody ever considered me.
Yeah, how dare they?
Not that I'm trying to blow up myself and say I'm the voice. I'm just saying, the new one of those could just not have a penis. And so therefore not be noticed, or who's the new, it's always interesting to me when, it's just hard. It's just hard to see something new, that maybe the new guitar player that you want to feature in your guitar isn't a dude. Maybe you forgot to look at the rest, or maybe, it's just, so, but I do think, I experience myself as firmly planted. I mean, literally, I came up in the folk circuit. I live in the folk world. Those are my people. That's my community. Those are my promoters still. Those are my allies. Those are, and my teachers, like Pete, or, Nora Guthrie, Woody's daughter, is like a mentor of mine too. And, and these are the people whose footsteps I've been very willingly following.
Well, I think there's something that you put in your music that you did from a very young age that a lot of people would be afraid to do, being deeply personal, deeply vulnerable, and showing your anger, your outrage, your fear. A song like Untouchable Face, where you're saying like, fuck you for making me want you, for making me incomplete, right? That part of a love affair we don't really talk about, that we're canceled out by this desire, and that song reminded me of, what I love about Tracy Chapman, just taking a simple two guitar drone, bringing poetry to it, and that feels like something that Dylan was doing in the 60s, and that maybe people should have realized that you were doing something like that in the early 90s, but they just saw
girls.
She's raising her fist on that patch on that girl's jacket. I don't know.
Yeah.
But now I'm listening to it, and I see how ahead of its time it was, and how important it was, and it still is.
Yeah, I guess for me, I think at one point you asked, like, did it ever make you mad or sad that you were being cast aside and sort of pushed into this tight little spot, and that your art was not relevant to anybody but this small group over here. And it was frustrating along the way, but always the experience for me of, that experience of being sort of marginalized never hurt as much as the experience of somebody coming up to me of all kinds of makes and models and saying, "Oh my God, thank you." Yeah. That experience was so much more powerful and meaningful that it carried me through all those interviews, through all those years, through all the, and, you know, like when I early on started writing about, you know, love affairs, not just with men, but with women, you know, and then being branded as bisexual, you know, that word bisexual came before my name for several decades. Bisexual singer, DiFranco, blah,
or just
blah.
lesbian.
Yeah, lesbian, right? Because if you're bisexual, you're a lesbian. Yeah, exactly. So then I was a queer person over there doing queer stuff with queer people, and you know, so again, like super aware, if you're me, that the moment you step into the arena, the moment you try to put your authentic voice and experience out there, and it's not aligned with the dominant experience and voice, you will be reduced to it. You will instantly be reduced, you know, if, and, you know, like a person of color that tries to speak to the experience of racism, for instance, then they will be one of those. And if they are engaged by the dominant society at all, it will be to be asked about that one particular aspect of their experience that they are deemed to legitimately know about. They'll never be asked about their ideas about foreign policy or their ideas about, you know, ecological, you know, solutions or this or that, because, you know, because you are reduced. I'm lesbian singer. I don't, you know, so I have been very aware of this process of once you go out on that limb, they will lock the door behind you and they will try to keep you out there hanging on a very thin limb forever. But
I think there's people like Prince who existed in this gender fluid, genreless space who were able to see you and to
right.
say, hey, I want you on my team.
Yeah,
was that kind of scary?
Oh, I mean, that was the thrill of my life. I mean, I'm such a Prince fan till I die, you know, and yeah, you know, again, there's another point of connection of me and somebody really different from me and with a different life experience. And, you know, when we really are open to each other and feeling each other and letting each other in, we can find so many ways of connecting and seeing each other and sharing experiences, you know. So yeah, what a wonderful thrill to connect with him a little bit, to have a chance to do that in this life. But yeah, I mean, I think, you know, like him, who, you know, we have to remind ourselves when we look back at people who seem like institutions, like they must have always been held up as the thing that we now remember them as or know them for. No, they were fought tooth and nail. You know, Malcolm X might be on a postage stamp now, but in his lifetime, you know, he was nothing but fought back and pushed down. So, you know, I think just sort of being accepting of that process, you know, is something that I've been working on over the course of my life. And I think I've come pretty far, you know, that sure, bisexual or lesbian singer DiFranco, what do you want to know about lesbian singer DiFranco? Or, you know, just go ahead, you do your thing. I'm going to just keep being me, damn it. And I'm going to have fun doing it. And it's going to be a freaking great ride. And I'm going to outlive the stereotype. I'm going to outlive it.
Well, you also are a mom, right?
Yeah.
Right. When you had your babies, did you feel like your identity changed, or you always knew who you were?
I don't feel like my identity changed as much as other people seem to feel or wonder that or think, oh, now her identity will be changed.
Sorry for asking that.
What's that?
I'm sorry I asked that.
Oh, no. Well, that's okay. I mean, I guess it's a thing that happens. So it's a thing that people think about and notice and wonder if it will happen again with me. Like, people change when they have kids. I think that is true often. So, It's a thing to wonder. But I mean, for me, I just feel like, and often I think the process that you hear from people is it makes them begin to worry about the future, about what the world will be for their kids, about the social issues that maybe they weren't focused on before. Now suddenly the importance is up because of their love for their children. It was almost the opposite for me. It's like I've been so focused and so worried about all this shit this whole time, and the kids come along and it's like, maybe I'll just sit and watch the grass grow and play some really inane, repetitive game for the next few hours and not worry about the world coming to an end. That's what my kids did for me, was almost like the opposite kind of balancing effect. Mm-hmm. Although, honestly, when you ask that question, I did have an image flash and I want to just share it to cop that I'm not so different from, like, I remember the days of pushing a baby stroller. Like having a kid in a stroller and walking down the street pushing a stroller. It was hard. It was weird. It was weird to be me pushing a baby stroller in my boots and my fucking army pants, and like I'm pushing a freaking stroller. But I got
the feminist singer-songwriter icon, just like us.
Yeah, exactly. Just like it's not a very macho or rock and roll thing to push a baby stroller down the street, but there I was. We all get humbled.
Do you find that your kids like certain parts of your music more than others, or like are they totally indifferent to your work?
My little guy is 8 and he doesn't really know my music. He never came on tour with me, really. My daughter, who's 14, she was on tour with me for the first bunch of years of her life and is a musical being herself, like way more than me, dude. She's like kind of amazing, but she, I feel like, ingested and shat out my musical career by the age of 6. And now, it's like there's nothing. She has consumed and surpassed whatever I'm about. And I don't know what she'll be about, but I think that, it's almost like I was like a vitamin that she took once or something, but her whole musical life is ahead of her, and it's sort of beyond me, I feel like.
I want to do one last creative exercise with you as a poetic being, because sometimes the best things come out of not bullshit interview questions, which I'm sure you're tired of. So what we're going to do is stream of consciousness. I'm going to take the following phrase, and the first thing that comes to your mind, maybe it's a place, maybe it's a person, maybe it's something that happened to you. Don't even think about it. Just the first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
Do it. Okay, here we go. Imperfect.
Lee. I made an album once called Imperfectly. So that's all that happened. I just pictured the cover of it.
Oh yeah, that was the song with the In and Out, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, 1992, talking about love affairs with men and women. It was before the Ellen DeGeneres moment.
Yeah.
Like, were you afraid of what people would think, or was it just like throw it to the wind and see what happens?
I think I was pretty, I was anti a lot of things, in the dominant culture. So I was just like, go ahead, bring it on. I was, if anything, willfully putting it in people's faces.
All right, next one. Royale Street.
Royal Street?
Royal Street.
Oh, yeah. Like, photography, art galleries. That's what it is here in New Orleans. There's actually a gallery there. I think it's very generically called the American Photography Gallery of American Photography or something. And it's just epic. Oh my gosh. It's amazing. It's kind of a store, but it's kind of a museum. Highly recommended if you're visiting New Orleans.
Yeah, the first time I went to New Orleans, I realized that I could just like live on Royal Street. Music that was just happening.
Yeah,
on every
a
block,
lot of buskers now.
playing in doorways, church parking lots.
Yeah.
It was just like, how is this happening in one place?
It's pretty sweet. It's still happening.
All right, next one. Toothless.
Toothless. I mean, I just pictured a little baby. I used to call my babies the toothless wonders. So yeah, maybe I'm going to have to say Dante and Peta back when they were my toothless wonders.
Could be your new kids band.
Yeah, there you go.
Like feminist, anti-racist children's music.
Yeah, man.
Everyone needs that.
Absolutely. Toothless Wonders. I'm filing it in my brain.
All right, next one. Rocket launch.
Bruce Cockburn.
Go on.
Remember that Canadian folk singer?
Oh, yeah.
Songwriter? If I had a rocket launcher, some son of a bitch would die. He's a friend of mine, too. With a lyric like that, he had to be my friend.
If you could tour with anyone living or dead right now, who would it be?
Brittany Howard.
Me too.
Yeah, cool.
All right, very last one. Ravenclaw.
Ooh. Well, okay. How about this? Netflix. Okay, why did she just say that? Because we have Netflix, and recently I go there at night to look at some kind of TV, and it's all horror. It's all Ravenclaws and blood coming out of dolls, and I'm like, what? Who in this house is? Why is this suddenly curated for Attila the Hun? Anyway, I did figure out the movie, the mystery. Somebody had hacked into our Netflix, but it was all violent. Ravenclaw just reminds me of all the images that were suddenly blanketing my Netflix panel.
We have a fascination with death, with murder, with violence in this country. I mean, look, you look at the podcast charts. Right. Besides us, we're 10, not really, but it's all the murder of someone, the disappearance of this little girl, the bludgeoning of so-and-so in the 18th century. And we're like obsessed with it. And I wonder
that's
what that
the
is.
downside of our lives being very comfortable and very boring. There's no longer death and violence and, just struggle, I mean, it used to be a harsh world, and now it's so cushy and comfortable for people like us, in this country, in this time, in this era, in this world. So we're searching for something that makes us feel alive, and fear is a big one.
That's what I felt watching those people storm the Capitol in January. Yeah. It's like these people need something to dress up for, to charge towards,
to give their lives to risk their life.
Purpose.
Right.
And somehow this is the thing that has driven them forward.
If we could just shift the narrative a little bit, maybe we'll have some strong allies.
Well, I thank you for creating revolutionary love. I hope people can listen to it. Let's go out by playing that title track and tell me a little bit about it before we go.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that song actually was commissioned of me by my friend Valerie Kaur, who wrote a book recently called See No Stranger, a memoir and manifesto of revolutionary love. And she is a wonderful activist, writer, lawyer, just an incredible kindred spirit. And we met a few years ago, and she asked me to write her songs to help embody her message. And that is one of them. So it's a song for Valerie, and I highly recommend her book.
Can you actually read the part showing myself self-respect from there? Like, can you read it as a poem so people can actually hear those words?
Let me see. I'll try to pull them out of my brain. That's the beginning of the song. You know how hard it is to jump into a song in the middle.
Or just go from the beginning if you want.
Yeah.
As much as you want.
I will tend my anger. I will tend my grief. I will achieve safety. I will find relief. I'll show myself mercy. I'll show myself respect. I'll decide when I'm ready to forgive but not forget.
I think we all need a little bit of that right now. Radical self-care.
Yes, exactly. That's an important part of revolutionary love. You can't just do it for others, or else you deplete yourself and you hit the wall. Yes, good way to go out, and pointing out that love thyself, care for thyself, respect and uphold thyself, and then you can do it for others once you've learned that first step.
Maybe my favorite moment as a musician, one of my favorite moments was playing the Ann Arbor Folk Fest at Hill Auditorium. And that room is special to me because I went to U of M as an undergrad and always saw some foundational moments in there. I saw John Prine for the first time in there, wearing his Happy Enchilada shirt, which I just got in the mail.
Yay!
And they put me and Liz, who sang on a lot of our Dust Bowl Revival records, on stage with you and Amos Lee to sing Angel from Montgomery.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
and
I remember.
Feeling that air in that room, it felt like the most holy place in the world. And singing that song by that guy who had seen in that room for the first time, it like everything came together. And watching you was like the most important thing for me.
Oh.
She was sitting on the side of the stage before we went on, watching you sing, and this look on her face I'd never seen. Like it was like watching a true hero, right in front of her. And then I had to go out and sing. I was like almost like freaked out because like shit, this is like her huge hero. And I was like nervous for her. And then it made me nervous.
That's beautiful. That's lovely.
But it was just a really wonderful moment.
Yeah, well, thanks for bringing that memory back to me too. Yeah, those are holy moments. I feel that, brother. That's our church, isn't it?
Yeah. All right. Well, I hope you can get back to what you do best soon.
All right. You too. Thanks for the time. I'll send the recording your way.
Thank you for doing that. You could send it to Karen, or you can just send it to Show on the Road Pod.
Okay, I'll just send it to Karen because I've got her right here. She'll get it. Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right. See you around the bend.
Bye.